This past week, I went an entire 7 days without having any access to the internet at all. And the craziest part is, it happened entirely by accident. That kind of thing sounds unheard of in the year 2025, but it was actually pretty simple. So here's what happened. So a few months back, I got a notification on my MacBook saying that its battery was in critical condition and needed to be replaced immediately. And like any other normal human being, I waited until the absolute last minute to get it fixed. I sent it to the Apple Store, and they told me it would be back within 7 days' time. But then on the drive back home, I realized that there was a big problem. Recently, I transformed my smartphone into a dumb phone. A dumb phone, for those of you who don't know, is basically like any other ordinary smartphone, except I've deleted all the apps that could potentially waste any of my time. So now I really only have texting, calling, Spotify, email, and my camera, which I'm using to film this video. I dumbified my phone after going down a long rabbit hole, which started at the beginning of 2025 when I made a New Year's resolution to quit social media. And on this very channel, I'm making a series that regularly updates you on how my life has been within the past 7 months, where I've been living without social media and ultimately cutting back on screen time. If you're interested in checking that series out, please scroll down below and click the first link in the description to check it out. Anyways, since my phone is dumb, I don't have any access to social media, YouTube, video games, or the internet. And now that I didn't have access to those things on my computer either, I realized I had just been completely cut off from the digital world altogether. At first, I didn't think a lack of internet access would be such a bad thing. I figured it would make a cool experiment that I could potentially learn a lot from. And then 5 minutes later, my friend texted me a YouTube link. And then my dad sent me an article. And then my boss sent me an Instagram reel. Before losing my computer, my method of surviving without access to Google on my phone was pretty simple. I would copy the link somebody sent me, email it to myself, and then open the link up in my email on my computer, where then I would have access to whatever somebody had just sent me. But now that I'm cut off from my computer, how will I have any access to the intellectual property that my peers are trying to share with me? I debated reinstalling Google on my phone just for this 1 week, but I decided not to because I didn't want to keep wasting so much time on it like I'd used to. That's why I decided to dumbify my phone in the first place. Even without social media, I was still spending so many precious hours of my day scrolling through dumb shit on a tiny little screen. And I can bet some pretty good money that you do the same exact thing. We're all guilty of it. Our modern world is so deeply intertwined with technology that at this point it just seems impossible to live without. And the 1 week I tried that was not easy. I missed out on the stats of my newest YouTube uploads, a bunch of college stuff, work stuff, links that my friends sent me, and about a million different questions that I wanted to Google but wasn't able to. So when I was robbed of one screen, my brain naturally drifted to another. My phone. Since it's dumb, there isn't much I can really do with it these days, so I had to get creative. First, I decided to do a deep cleaning of my email. I used to have over 3,000 items in my inbox, and now I only have 4. And after that was done, I'm not really sure why, but I decided to do what I called boomerfying my contacts. All the funny contact names I used to have for my friends and family members have now been replaced with their first name and last name. In addition to that, if applicable, I also added their email address, birthday, and home address. And I'm glad I did those 2 things because they made my entire Google account feel so much more clean and organized, but it's just really pathetic that I felt the urge to do that just because I had nothing else to do that related to a screen. I could have been reading, painting, even just watching TV, but I decided to do the most boring possible thing I could do on a phone simply because it was on a phone. At the end of the day, no matter who you are, screens are really that addictive. Not just for me, but for all of us. After my first day or two without having access to the internet, I started feeling very anxious and just out of touch with the world. It was an eerily similar feeling to when I first quit social media at the beginning of this year. I knew that there was so much going on out there in the digital world that I was missing out on, and even though none of it truly has to do with me, I couldn't help but feel like all of it did. Every Reddit post, every YouTube video, every New York Times article, the more things I missed out on, the more nervous I would get. And at this point, I'm not even sure why. But honestly, one part of that whole FOMO dilemma that did turn out to be accurate was the YouTube part. YouTube had such a good week while I was away, like what the hell? There were new uploads from Dan TDM, Ryan Trahan, Sir Yacht, Kickball Dad, like all my favorite white boys were out there making things and I missed it. Anyways, the 7 days without my computer did end up going by pretty quickly, and eventually I got it back just in time, and now my battery is good as new. The day after I got it back, I immediately went into major iPad kid mode for hours. I was binging videos and reading articles and playing games and messing around with Photoshop and even like rearranging the items on my desktop. I just couldn't pry my eyes from the screen. And it's kind of dystopian to say that, but that's a completely natural human thing. The same exact phenomenon would happen to anybody else who were put in my situation, I can guarantee it. But despite all that, after my 7-hour epic computer fest had ended, I started to feel kind of upset and confused. I wasn't really sure why I'd missed all this nonsense so much. Because finally being back on the internet didn't bring me any happiness, it just gave me a rush of energy, like relapsing from an addiction. And that's when everything came into perspective for me that it completely is. Just like smoking or doing drugs, the internet is completely addictive and it's not good for any of us. Billions of people around the world rely on the internet every single day, and it might make us feel smarter, but it's really just making us dumber. Yeah, I did miss out on a ton of cool YouTube videos in the past week, but I was also fortunate enough to get a break from brain rot, AI, upsetting news stories, and so much other bullshit that I didn't realize I was so much happier without. Sometimes it's nice to fantasize about going back to the 1980s and living in a less digital world, but time travel isn't a thing, so that's just not in the cards for any of us. In this day and age, it's almost completely impossible to live a life that doesn't have anything to do with the internet. We rely on it so much for work, education, and countless other institutions within our society that can't be avoided. That doesn't mean that we need to succumb to our codependence with it, though. As a professional teenage idiot, my best advice to you is to limit yourself. Set screen time limits for yourself. Pay attention to how long you've been doom scrolling for. Don't charge your phone until it dies. Just be responsible and hold yourself accountable for these things. The internet is destroying our brains completely and we're enjoying every second of it. You can run and hide from it all you want, but whether you like it or not, there's always going to be something that you need to go back and use the internet for. This might sound scary and make you feel hopeless, but you still have power here. And the key to that power is understanding moderation. You need to limit yourself. Thank you for watching.